Good afternoon, this is Jim. I'm going to show you some helpful tips for putting together your LiteRace 2X. I'm going to go through a number of things and I'll go through them quick. I'll try to make everything make sense. A couple things starting out. We use a couple different products when we're putting things together, especially where you're putting in bolts and things. You want some lubrication. We use a magic lube, which is a Teflon. Some people also use a product called Lanacoat. And basically what you want to do is when you put your riggers on, we'll go over this a little bit outside, the screws that hold them down, these are stainless steel screws. They're going into a metal plate that is fiberglassed inside the boat. So anytime you have two pieces of metal together, it's good to have that with some lubrication on it. And you also want to take those apart every couple of months just to go ahead and get some lubrication in there, make sure they don't freeze up. We'll go over that a little bit more outside. Another thing is your rolling seat. These wheels, allegedly these are sealed bearings. And I can tell you that when you roll around in the salt water, eventually they are going to get salt water into them. What we have found is anytime we go out and row, after we come back in, I have a bucket like this, and come over and zoom in here. Zoom in on the wheel right there. I stand the seats up like this, and I just use 3-in-1 oil myself, and I put a couple of drops. I kind of fill it up there, and I spin the little wheel around, and I let that. I'll do all the wheels. I'll let them sit for a few minutes. And usually 5 minutes, I'll turn it over and I'll do the other side. I just let them sit and drain out. And that keeps our wheels where they're rolling and free all the time. I found this out because we went away for a week, came back, and a week later I had not done this and the wheels were basically starting to freeze up. Another quick warning about the wheels. These wheels will be rolling an aluminum track. You have an aluminum track with a rubber wheel rolling in it. The rubber is always kind of grinding. It makes this nice black, really fine powder, which is a combination of aluminum and rubber. And when you get it on things, it will ruin any clothes that it gets on. And basically you learn to not get these wheels near you. Every time I go out, if I take a seat out, the first thing I do, I go ahead and I wipe it. I try to get as much off as I can, and you see you get there. And I'll show you when we go out, we always wipe our tracks out to make sure they're clean, but just fair warning. I've talked to other people that row, I say, is there anything to do about this? And they're like, no, you just deal with it. We'll go over that. A couple of other quick things, jumping around a little bit. Once you get your oar pin installed and everything is set up, when you're installing, there's a video that talks about the oar pins, and a couple things I want to go over. One is, and these don't have to be super tight, just properly snug. But when you set up your spacers, as shown in the other video from Lightboat, you basically want to fill the spacers up so that the last spacer here is basically level with the top of the oar pin. If I take the spacers off, here's the oar pin, here's all your spacers that are on the top. This should be basically level so that when you put the bolt down and you tighten this down, and you snug this up. It's a number 13 wrench. Once you snug this down, this still should be free. Shouldn't be, there can be a little up and down slop, shouldn't be much, but this should be nice and free and should go around. If you have too many washers on here and you tighten this down, it'll bind this, and that's not what you want. Another thing I'm going to mention real quick while I'm on the oar locks, this is what's called a speed clip. And what this is for is if you are out rowing and you were in rough conditions, you may want to raise this up. You could pop this clip out, move it to the bottom down here, find a space, and make a space, and basically pop it in, and now you've just moved your oar up. Because of the physics of it, because of how far out the oar locks are, it actually makes, even though it's only about a 10 millimeter change, it actually makes a pretty good difference in how the oars are connecting with the water. You can set them where you want. We typically put the speed clips at the top, in a section up here near the top, and we set it up so that normal, calmer conditions, we're rowing at this level. When we get to rougher conditions, if we want, we can move the clip down to the bottom and go from there. I will warn you, these sink. They do not float. They're cheap, they're only about $1 a piece, but they do not float. And they're an industry standard, so you can get them in a number of rowing resources. One other thing, when you put it on, what you want to do is you want to put it on so it is high enough that it will not hit the oar lock when it goes around. So normally what I do is I put at least one washer above it so that it's not contacting the fixed washer. I slip it in there, and then I confirm that it does not move as the oar lock goes around it. The reason you do this is if you put it down here at the bottom, fat fingers to work. There you go. If you put it down here at the bottom, this now is hitting. Basically, as you keep rowing back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, if you get in a bind and under some pressure, it can actually pop that off, and now it'll fly off in the water and it'll sink and it's gone. You can row to get home, but you really don't want your oar lock slopping around. So again, put these where you want. We keep ours in the top position. We keep it very near the top. I usually put in at least one washer above it. And see, I didn't go quite far enough, so see it's hitting. So I'll move it up a little farther. Now it clears. That's how I leave that set. While I'm on the oar locks, two other quick things. The boat comes with a bunch of plastic little caps that go on here to make it pretty. They're very easy to knock off. We kept all of ours in the bag. We want the boat to be pretty, we put them on, but we typically leave them off. And a couple of reasons. One is it allows us to always wash and make sure we keep this nice and clean. And the second thing is we save them for later. Again, when you put this together, this is a good place to put some grease on this bolt before you put it in. When you put this together, put a little grease on here as you put this together. And I've actually put some grease in here with my fingers just to get this all lubed up. It doesn't hurt anything. This connection where your oar pin goes in, you can see we've got a little corrosion built up here. I'll actually, about every 6 months, I'll go ahead and break this down and take it apart just to clean everything off. You have an aluminum arm and a stainless steel pin, dissimilar metals. You're going to get corrosion if you're rolling in the salt water. So every 6 months or so I break it down, clean it all up, put it back together. I'll go over where to set the oar pins when we get out further. Last thing I'm going to go over at this moment. The way the oar locks work, you unscrew this, and this opens up. This is called the gate. You drop the oar in there. We'll go over this outside, but you drop the oar in here, you put the gate down. What you'll notice is this is a round cylinder, and this is actually hollow. And the way this works, this goes down, and when you turn this in, this is going to go past the end. So it's actually going to go in, so it's locked down, and it can't come loose. A common mistake you'll see, people are in a hurry, they'll only put it down halfway, they tighten it up, and it's not. They'll tighten it like this, they'll think it's tight. You go out rowing, you hit a wave, this pops off, and your gate opens up and your oar will pop out. So you want to make sure that you go like this, you put it down, you lock it down. this little screw right here, you set this distance right here. This controls the spread of this oar lock, and that is going to play into how the oars feather. And I will tell you, you will set it to your preference, but to start out, you want to start out by having this distance between this edge and this edge. You want to have it at approximately, oh, 1.75 inches. That'll get you started, okay? And your oar will be loose enough to work. 1.75 inches, by my eye, should work pretty well for you. If you want a tighter grip on your oars, you'll end up, you back this off, you'll change this nut and you roll it in, and then you tighten this down with your fingers. It'll draw that in tighter. That'll give you a tighter grip on the feathering. If you want it looser, you back this off. This is a 10mm nut. Take a 10mm wrench, you open this up, basically spreads this out, but you tighten this back down and bring it up tight, and then you'll know you've got your settings set correctly. And I'll go over that a little bit more when we're out in the sun. It'll be a little hot. Last word of warning, what we always do anytime, all we ever do is open this, take the oar out, and we always close it, and we always lock it back down. Anytime we're doing anything with the boats, these are always closed and locked. The reason is, if you leave these hanging like this is a very vulnerable thing that basically can get knocked around and bent, and that will create your problems. It's easier just get in the habit, every time you take the oars out, close this back down, and we've never had one bent or broken. This is a rigger. It's got the oar pin installed. They are different for port and starboard, and they're different for forward and rear. Ours are marked here. There's a sticker underneath, and it says ABT. It may say trayboard. This one just says a T, or trayboard, or for starboard, which is for starboard. So in French, I believe it's pronounced trayboard. So this is the forward rigger, and it goes on the starboard side of the boat. We'll talk about that when we get out to the boat in a minute. This is the port rigger for the front part of the boat, by the bow. And this one is marked with a B. And that's the bayboard side of the boat. So there is a difference. The other thing is this rigger, the forward rigger, is just right at 21 inches in total length. The riggers towards the stern of the boat are a little shorter, and that rigger is approximately 20 inches long. So when you put the riggers on the boat, make sure that you have the forward riggers, the longer riggers up front, and you have the starboard one on the starboard side, T or trayboard on the starboard side, and the B or the bayboard on the port side of the boat. Okay, I'm gonna stop at this point and move to the outside.